Well, as you know, I'm the managing editor, chief operating officer, and co-founder of Fair Observer. I'm also clearly British, you can hear from my accent, and I'm an author and journalist as well. So my first book was published in 2012, The Arab Uprisings, an Introduction. I'm working on my second book, The Youth of the Middle East. It should have been finished this summer, but I have so much work to do. You say I wear so many hats, so many different jobs I have essentially that I do on a day-to-day basis. So the book will inshallah be finished by early next year. Fair Observer, we are in the United States. We are a non-profit media organization that aims to inform and educate global citizens of today and tomorrow. We look at world affairs, global issues, let's say. Luck, I think. Luck, persistence, and I took the opportunity when it came to me. I have been working in media for about 8-9 years, but at Fair Observer on May 4th this year will be 5 years. And I used to work as a news editor in London for a company, but when Fair Observer first started, it was a brand new company. I applied for the job, I saw it, and I was lucky. They came to me, they said, this is the job, and I started as a junior at the company. But I always wanted to work in media from the age of about 14, 15 years old. There's actually a piece of paper that I wrote when I was that age. And it said, one day I want to work in media. I found it around 1 year ago. Alhamdulillah, I entered media. But I would say luck, persistence, and the opportunity is what really put me into media and put me to where I am today. Travel is very difficult. I think that's one thing. So right now, in the type of situation we live in with Daesh, with the security problems we have in the world, when you want to travel, it's difficult, but especially when you're a journalist, it becomes even more difficult, especially when you go to certain countries. Like if you look on Google, you will see an article about me in Lebanon, of me being detained in Lebanon. But the logistical problems that you have in media, being able to write freely what you want to write, I think that is one big thing. The availability of funds, money, for especially non-profit media or media that truly want to stay independent. Independent media struggle with access to funding and money. And the last thing will be, I'd say, the move to digital media. A lot of media companies around the world, if they're in Morocco, the UK or America, they have struggled to move to digital media. So media has changed a lot over the last 15, 20 years, let's say 15 years. And many companies haven't understood how they can move to digital media. In the UK, there is a publication called The Independent. This paper started, I think it was in 1986, but you might want to check that, but it was around that time. And this year in March, last month, they stopped printing the paper. Why? Because they didn't realize how they could move over to digital well enough. More and more you will see over the next 5 to 10 years. My sister says between 3 and 7 years. But more and more papers will stop printing the actual paper. They will move to digital. And I think this, in the industry, the media industry, is the biggest challenge of our time. Aside from needing a wasta, which we do need that a lot in some industries, you need to network. That's the biggest thing with journalism. To get into journalism, you need to network with people. If it is on social media networking or in-person networking. If you know me, for example, I can open the door to many different people. So it's about networking, this big thing. But to get into journalism, you need to start at the bottom. I started at the very bottom when I got into media. I was an editorial assistant at Fair Observer and I made my way up. Now I'm the co-founder of Fair Observer, the non-profit organization. But also if you want to get into media, if it is in digital media, as in like multimedia, like video, radio, broadcast media we'll call that, or online or print, you need to build your portfolio. See, if you're writing articles, write articles. If you want to produce documentaries, produce documentaries. If you want to produce podcasts, and produce podcasts. Because you need to show someone, this is what I'm producing. Build your portfolio and try a bit of luck. I interviewed a guy in London once. He is a British journalist. He used to work for The Guardian, Bloomberg, Channel 4 News in the UK, and the BBC, Al Jazeera, and many other companies. And how he got into media, one day he decided, I'm going to email and send letters to different companies, different journalists. And he sent around 500. 495 people didn't reply, or they just said no. 5 people said, why didn't you come into the office one day and have a coffee with us? So he seized the opportunity. So it's about always trying and trying and trying and trying. When someone closes one door, you open another. And when that door closes, you open another and another and another. When they're starting out, it's usually part-time. It's usually freelance. So they may pitch an article to a publication if it's Aujourd'hui Maroc, or if it's The Guardian or the NYT. So they will pitch the article to them. It's freelance. So it's an article by article basis. When you get your big break, if it's in a media company like the BBC, Al Jazeera, or Fair Observer, let's say, when you get your big break, then it usually goes to full-time, of course. But most journalists, unfortunately, the way the media industry is run right now, you're struggling as a freelance journalist, mostly, usually. Luckily, I'm not in that way, but most journalists are usually freelance journalists until they get the big opportunity. Alternative media, the internet has allowed us to have many different types of media, many different choices. As a curious citizen of the world, we have the opportunity to access media via tablet, smartphone, internet, etc. So we're not led by the print newspaper, the physical newspaper anymore. Traditional media, unfortunately, I would say is getting worse. So when I say traditional media, I'm talking about the newspapers, the old newspapers, or even some of the online journalism, like some publications in the United States, where everything is about the click me type of articles. What's sexy, what's attractive, what sells to the reader and what sells to the advertiser. That part of media is getting worse, but at the same time we have great alternative, if you want to call it alternative media, we can call it that. But I would call them online media. So publications like ProPublica, Fair Observer, Global Voices, Open Democracy, Your Middle East, these have fantastic editorial output, and they are providing something different in today's industry. So there is hope there if we want to say something. At Fair Observer, we aim to publish them within 14 days, but if it's a time-sensitive article, if it's led by the news agenda, so for example, if Barack Obama was coming to Morocco, we would publish that straight away as soon as it comes in. But at Fair Observer, at least, we have a strict editorial process, unlike some other publications. So we have the first review of the content, the argument. We want to help the writer get the best argument. Then we look at the language, and then we look at the editorial. Editorial board looks at the final the article. So it's a strict editorial process to make sure that the writer gets the best service and the reader gets the best quality information. So it can take up to 14 days, but usually less. There's laws against media, especially in the UK and the US. Other countries, you have to look at their policies. But in the UK, for example, you have an organisation, government organisation, I think it's called Ofcom, So as a citizen, if say the BBC publish something that you as a citizen disagree with, you can complain to Ofcom and they will investigate the situation. It will be like, it's like a court. They check to see if this media company has done something wrong. If they have done something wrong, then there are repercussions after. The BBC does, so the British Broadcasting Corporation, they get it. It's called a public service broadcaster. So we, as British citizens, we pay a tax called the television license tax. So if you have ATV, then you have to pay a tax. It's like something like $200. Now that money goes to the BBC, it goes to a few other channels as well. I think it's Channel 4. So Channel 4 is a public service broadcaster. So yani it's in the public good. These media organizations, they are seen as doing a public service, so they get support. But most companies, they don't get financial support from the government. They're independent. Unless you are a public service broadcaster, you don't. I'd say both. The research, I love the research. I've always loved the research since I was at university, because you use the same skills of doing research for an exam, so an exam or an essay, or even a research for an interview that you may be doing if you're doing media at university. So you do the same research at university that you do as a journalist. So if I write an article, I need research. If I do an interview, I need research. If I'm going to a big meeting at a big company, then I need research. That I love, but also the travel part, because the people I meet in this field as a journalist when I travel, if I'm traveling in Jordan at a refugee camp, or if I'm traveling in southern Morocco, you meet some amazing people that you would never meet if you were working in a bank 9 to 5. This isn't to say that working in a bank 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. is bad, but as a journalist, I'm not, or in media, let's say, I'm not stuck in an office. I am seeing the world and doing my research and doing what I love at the same time. Would I change it?